get serious about building content sites and building a profitable business online? Welcome to the Niche Website Builders Podcast. We bring you the latest field-tested tips, tricks, and strategies for building a profitable online asset. We interview industry experts, share customer success stories, and reveal our own experiences working on hundreds of sites to inspire and motivate you to make something happen. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Niche Website Builders Podcast. Today we have Clint Butler. So if you watched the podcast, listened to the podcast last week, we have Ted Kubitis. Clint Butler is another person on the SEO Fight Club podcast. He was previously well known for the dark arts of SEO or black hat SEO, and we cover a lot of different things within this podcast. I guess some of the myths surrounding a lot of the things too, but specifically we cover schema markup, so how you can use schema to boost your rankings. We talk about online reputation management, what you can do now to improve the positive things on Google about your brand and yourself. We talk about negative SEO, whether that's still a thing, how would you know if it's happening, and I guess things you can do to help protect yourself as well. We dive into the topic of PBNs or mini networks. They've kind of made the rounds back. People are creating, I guess, moats around the side of different websites that link together. And we talk about the best practices there and how to do that. And then we finished the podcast as well with launch jacking and the idea of essentially creating pages for launching products to get initial sales. So we talk a lot about that too. I think the most useful thing in this podcast, at least for me personally, is on the link building side. And we dive deep into not so much link building strategies, but more on the idea of authority versus relevance and how anchor text itself is a relevance factor and not so much the web page it comes from. So that might kind of open up a little bit of your link building campaigns as well. So sit back and enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by Niche Website Builders, an agency dedicated to helping people just like you build profitable content sites. Niche Website Builders are the hands-off content site marketing agency you always wished existed. It's run by content site marketers for content site marketers, and they help both investors and individuals alike build profitable online properties. They provide a fully outsourced approach to content creation, link building, and done-for-you website builds, the same approach they use on their own six-figure portfolios. For example, their content packages come with a proprietary keyword research process, are written by in-house native English speakers, formatted using templates proven to convert, and uploaded to WordPress with affiliate links added so that all you need to do is hit the publish button. Check them out at nichewebsite.builders/show. That's nichewebsite.builders/show and fill out the form to get coupon codes for 10% more content or a 10% discount on links with your first order sent right to your inbox.
Welcome to the Niche Website Builders Podcast. Today we have Clint Butler. Welcome, Clint.
Thank you, James, for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. You're also, I guess, one part of the SEO Fight Club podcast. So if anyone's listening to this now, you can go back to last week's podcast where we had Ted Kubitis on. So we're getting the whole crew on the Niche Website Builders podcast. So do you want to maybe provide a little bit of a background of yourself, Clint, just for the listeners?
I started doing SEO 9 years ago. I was in the Army at the time, and I was looking for, I knew I was going to retire, right? So I was getting close to that time. So I wanted to find an alternative source of income. And like a lot of people, I fell into network marketing. And the group that I was with, they were promoting health and wellness stuff, which I absolutely despise doing that stuff anyway. I don't know why I signed up with them, but they were selling leads, and it was not cheap. It was like $3,000 for 500 leads.
Wow.
And that kind of got me into looking for alternative ways for lead generation, which ultimately led me to SEO, because SEO is free, right? So, so I started doing that and then doing some affiliate stuff, and ultimately retired and went to Afghanistan for 2 more years as a contractor, and then came out and started my own agency. And then I also worked with Guy Charette. He's the owner of Over the Top SEO. and we were killing it over there. He transitioned on to different things in his life. He's singing now, I think, and I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of SEO consulting. I have a couple clients, but I'm really picky on my client base nowadays. So
Yeah.
um, it's nice being able to be picky. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, for sure. Are you running your own sites at all at this time, or you kind of left that behind you?
I mean, I have Digital Ear, but that's my agency site. I honestly, I do more tests on that site than I do anything else, right?
Mm,
And I have a couple other projects. Like I'm a co-owner of SIA with Dory Friend now. We have Rank Gear, which is a SaaS product for Schema, and other than that, it's just like a bunch of pet projects that's floating around, really.
nice. So you mentioned obviously your digital, your own site as kind of like your testing ground. How do you set up? As maybe someone's listening to this, maybe wants to test some things out. How do you set up a testing site? What are the requirements there?
Well, I mean, like in Digital Ear's case, it's not lorem ipsum. It's not fake keywords. We're just trying things out and seeing,
Mm,
how's that going to affect, how's the thing that we're trying going to work against real competition. So it's easy to do a single variable test, which I'm sure you've seen the lorem ipsum things
yeah.
and all that. I mean, it's easy to do those and say, yes, that's a factor, and no, it's not. But it's a whole other thing to say, okay, now that I know that's a factor, how powerful is that factor? And you'll be surprised. I mean, like even TED software, great software, 3,000 some odd factors in it. But really, how much I would probably argue, and I know he'd argue with me, but maybe even 10% of those are kind of worth everyone doing. You know what I mean? So that's why I like to use Digital Ear. So that's my own agency site. If I do damage to it, it's my own agency that I did damage to. I'm not testing it out on clients and all of that. And at the end of the day, I'm not bragging, but I'm good enough that if I roast it, I can recover it too,
Yeah.
which in and of itself is another test, right? So I would probably say that would be the best for most people is if you have one that you really care about, and then have one that's like cool and you can smash it and do things to it, and apply all that positive stuff to the one you really care about.
Mm,
And in doing so, what you end up getting is a algorithm proof website that's just not gonna, you're not gonna
yeah.
care when the next Google update is.
Nice. You mentioned obviously out of say potentially 3,000 factors, maybe only 10% of them really do matter. Do I maybe rattle off maybe a few of the ones that you think are the most important for someone's site?
So keyword density, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's keyword density doesn't matter, but surprisingly, you look at all that data and then you apply some of that, and keyword density does. Titles, meta descriptions are obvious ones, headings, and not just having them, but having them in a structure. I think myself and Kyle Roof were the first ones that actually taught people to, when you're doing that, the heading stuff. And how I like to present it is if you've ever been in school and you did an outline for a research paper,
Mm-hmm.
that outline should be exactly how you're using headings, introductions, arguments, sub arguments,
Mm,
and conclusions. And so H1s, T's, threes, and fours. And don't use those in random things like about us and contact us and all that stuff. Those are random and they're not part of your topic, and you wouldn't do that in a research paper, so don't do it on your website. Kind of philosophy of things.
mm,
And then the links is another one that I look at significantly. But most times, especially with Quora, you get just kind of a broad strokes thing, right? So you got to look at those individually. And then finally is the entities and LSI.
yeah.
Regardless of your argument of LSI and Google doesn't use LSI, it's LSI keywords is not the concept of latent semantic indexing. They're two different things, right? So the use of LSI is actually, it's kind of enlightening. You bring those together and you see what's going on. And frankly, anyone that's using a content editor like Surfer, InLinks, Phrase, Cognitive, ClearScope. You guys are all doing LSI. You're just doing it with entities, right? So, yep.
Fair enough.
Yep.
You mentioned about the headings as well. I guess I read, if you're on SEO Twitter at all, you see people talk about how certain heading numbers don't really count anymore towards weighting towards SEO. So something like only H1, 2, and 3s really matter, and 4s, 5, 6s don't really hold any weight. How true is that?
I would say that you can prove or disprove that by looking at the actual uses in the wild. So for most people, 1, 2s, 3s, probably 4 is as far as people are going to go, right? And 5s and 6s at the end of the day, they're so stylistically different that I don't know very many web designers, much less SEOs, that are employing those tags. So if you have very little use cases, it's easy to say, oh, those aren't part of the algorithm. But I would argue that if you created 50 HTML pages on 50 domains for the exact same keyword and ranked all 50 of those, and if you only used H5s and H6s and then did a Quora report, I bet you the H5s and 6s would correlate with rankings, right? Because Google's got to read something. So if you're using those H5s and 6s, so I don't like get caught up in that minutia of, oh, this one's more important than that one. Is it there or is it not there? And if you're not using them, and everyone else is, then you need to be using them, because you don't have to mirror what everyone else is doing, but you certainly got to stack up to them. Make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. That kind of leads me down the path of, as you mentioned, you kind of got to do what everyone else is doing, or at least have similar, I guess, things on the page. And I know Google's recently talked about a consensus update, as in it's pulling essentially similar people talking about the same thing as that is the consensus, that is the right answer to the topic. And I came across a keyword the other day, and the consensus was completely wrong, and every article on the first page had the wrong answer. So I guess in that sense, if you come across that, how do you combat that? Because you don't want to be the one also spreading the information. You want to maybe talk about the actual truth of what the answer is.
The problem with that algorithm update, and I saw it, was that it was based off of the authority of the sites that are answering it.
Okay.
And what we hypothesized is, if I can make enough authority sites and give the wrong answer, I can essentially change the answer that Google is reporting. And your example was perfect of that, right? So you have a whole bunch of websites that meet the authority threshold for that algorithm to say that it's true or not, and clearly it's not. So I would hypothesize that you get enough time on your hands, you could probably game that a lot. But you're going to need time, because you got to figure out what's the authority of the sites that Google's been trained, that the algorithm's been trained to look for, and that kind of, how important are those sites in your niche compared to everyone else, and then start answering that question over and over and over again on this complete set of sites, and eventually, I would surmise that you could probably change the answer of a bunch of those questions.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of damn work, though.
Yeah.
I
don't see how you can monetize. I mean, you probably monetize that traffic eventually, but I mean, at the end of the day, is it really worth that?
Yeah.
Other than the fun fact that look what I did, Google. No.
I was going to come to another, I guess, area of content websites, and that is Schema. Now, I haven't done any Schema on my websites just because it confuses the hell out of me. I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat. I guess you can use plugins like Rank Math and stuff, but you need the pro version to do a lot of those things. So I guess from your point of view, one, is Schema worth doing? Is it going to significantly improve my site? And two, what's the easiest way to go about doing that?
I love Schema. But the problem with Schema and the Schema tools and that kind of stuff is that those are all based off of the minimum viable product. So if you look at the Google developer guidelines for each of those schema elements, it's a minimum viable schema that you can write, and it's uniform across the page. So that's what they've given you as a template. And all of those SEO plugins that auto write it, from the first one, which was Project Supremacy, as far as I can remember, those are the first guys to start auto writing schema, all the way to the currents of, Rank Math and SEMrush that are auto writing schema. They do not create unique schema enough. So everyone has those. Let's say Rank Math. I don't know how many users, but I like to say 4 million users are using Rank Math, and 4 million users are using the exact same schema. So now what we've done is we've set this standard. This is the minimum viable product you're supposed to have, right? And that's where a lot of people are missing the boat with schema, because they're just, they're following what everyone else is doing. Goes back to what we were talking earlier about just repeating the same things that everyone else is doing. You know what I mean? So same kinds of content, same kinds of schemas, same kinds of images, same, blah, blah, blah. So that's what those plugins are doing. So I did some SEO testing, and I tested pretty much all of them. I didn't test the built-in schema in SEO Press, but by that time I was done with it. I was over it. But Rank Math and Yoast, I tested all of them, and none of them provided a viable ranking improvement. So when you know that, and you're using those for your schema, and you're telling people, yeah, schema is important, you get rich snippets and stuff, but it's never going to rank for you. Technically, it's true, because you guys are, well, I say you guys, I'm not, you know what I mean? But you guys are all doing the same thing, so Google's not rewarding you for doing the same thing. So I tell people not to use those plugins anymore. As you get used to handwriting schema. I call it advanced schema, because it takes a little bit of a learning curve to understand that website, schema.org. But once you got that, man, you can be dangerous. Yeah. If you have like a mass site, you're going to need something, right? If everyone else has something and you have nothing, you're never going to rank at all anyway. So use the plugins for that, to get the something. Figure out what your good pages are that are going to make you some money, and then go back and do the advanced schema. That's how I recommend it for those mass site guys.
Gotcha.
I think that's the same philosophy that Craig Campbell uses for his affiliate sites too, right? So he'll build 500 pages and see which ones, what are the top 10% that are making him the 80% of the traffic, and he'll focus on those. I'm the same way with schema. I'm telling you to handwrite it, but I'm not telling you to handwrite it for all 30,000 pages of your website. Be specific and be smart.
So what goes into the schema then that makes it so unique? For maybe you're trying to rank for a money, I don't know, best whatever keyword. Maybe you're position 5 on the SERPs. What are you writing in that schema then to kind of give yourself that boost?
When you're writing it, you can't say that Google can read, but the machine learning and the AI and the math behind their algorithm do word association to try to figure out what your page is about. Schema.org, that entire project was designed in order to categorize the web, place it into things. So what you're doing with advanced schema, and just at a minimum, let's say about and mentions, you're saying my page is about plumbing. My page is about it mentions Alpharetta. Let's say I'm working in Alpharetta, Georgia. It mentions Georgia, and it mentions companies and contractors. So now my page is about plumbing, and it mentions these cities. And before Googlebot has ever read my content, I've already tied it in with entities. Yep. And the same would go with the local business schema. You put that on your page and you build it out nice, and you tie it directly to your map. you're going to see rankings boost in both organic and the map because you've tied those together and you said, hey, Googlebot, this is what this page is about and this is who's it's associated with. So both those algorithms will reward you for that. Same with organization. You're worried about branding. That'll tie that into and keep those so you can actually start taking over your brand and become your own entity. And then people will associate your entity with a keyword and then they'll have to start mentioning your entity. You know what I mean? So all that stuff all compounds and it will do it eventually without Schema, but Schema makes the whole process a whole lot faster.
Okay. Would you be able to give an example for like an affiliate page, like maybe like a roundup review? How would that?
So affiliate page, if I was doing a roundup review, my base schema would be web page schema. The primary things inside of there would be about and mentions for the web page. I would also have article schema, outlining what the article is about, give a short abstract of the article, keywords that are in that article, and you could put more abouts and mentions if you want to. But in that regards, I would do abouts and mentions for the primary keyword. So if I'm doing a Riverside FM review, I would do the abouts and mentions for Riverside FM for the brand, or even podcasting hosting service or recording service, whatever that primary term I wanted to do. And then I would put has part, and I would have a product schema. And the product schema would outline and actually tie my review directly to Riverside FM, giving me more authority. I'm actually piggybacking off of authority and saying, Google knows Riverside FM is real, and now they know my review is legit about that Riverside FM. I've put in the extra work to teach the bot that thing, right? And then you could throw aggravated reviews and try to trigger off the stars if you wanted to, or put an image carousel in there if you wanted to, and do screenshots of you touring the products, that kind of stuff. You could put that all inside of Schema. Okay. And you don't even necessarily, like the rules say you have to have it on page, but in truth, Googlebot is going to read it whether it's there or not.
Gotcha.
So,
is
and
this
you're going to
something?
get credit for it.
Is this something people can kind of just learn searching on YouTube, or does this take kind of more in-depth course?
It's more in depth, but at the end of the day, what you really need to learn is how to read schema.org and just understand. I mean, the schema really has three basic characters, and that's the curly brackets, and I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I think so.
And then there's the block.
Yep.
And then the comma. And those three characters kind of make or break your schema. But if you know how to read those and put those together, anybody can eventually learn schema just off of that base.
Gotcha. All right, that's good. That's a good starting point there for anyone listening. I want to go down the road a little bit towards links, and I guess if you are around the SEO community, a lot of things you hear are about negative SEO doesn't work anymore because Google knows what a spammy link. So Google just ignores, whatever these links are that are being sent to whatever site. So you're not going to be affected by it. But I wanted to know from yourself, is negative SEO still a thing? Can it still be done? And if it is happening, is there a way to, I guess, fix your site so you don't have these problems?
So you don't have these problems. There is negative SEO is still real. There is some slight truth to you can no longer just spam out a website anymore. You know what I mean?
So you can't go to Fiverr and just send 10,000 links.
Yeah. And in the old way, the old way was, I'm going to send you porn links or off topic, whatever's. And Google, for the most part, filters that out. It will damage your website. It will damage your rankings, and you will have to counteract it. But it's not like it's going to tank you. Not like in the old days where you can wipe out people. But yet there are still tactics where that link spam works really, really well. And unless you know what you're looking for, and the person that's doing it to you doesn't know how to hide very well, you probably won't find it.
Okay.
So so you have to be cognizant and proactive, and that means, in your case, building your own link profile. You can't just victims of negative SEO today are the ones that are I don't write content, or I don't write I don't do link building. I just write content, and Google comes and the fairy dust sprinkles on my website, and I rank. You know what I mean? So those guys are really susceptible to negative SEO. You can change those sites pretty quickly
Just because
with
they don't have many links going to their site already.
well, not even a million. They don't have enough third-party validation to say
Okay. Yeah.
James's website is about podcasts. But if I hide a negative SEO campaign behind a Pinterest image, I could teach Google that James's website is about basket weaving,
Yeah.
and your site won't rank for the podcast until you get around to actually building links and saying, no, it's a podcast, it's a podcast, it's a podcast. And that's easy to reverse from a victim's perspective. It just takes longer. Like I did a test on Digital Ear, and I was messing around, and I screwed up one of the elements of my link building campaign down at tier 5. So you know what tiers are,
Well,
right?
yeah, but tier 5. What? Okay, what's below tier 3?
So yeah, tier 1, you're good backlinks. Tier 2, probably like I don't know, whatever you want to do, social bookmarks or blog comments, whatever, right? Tier 3s, tier 4s, kind of a secret sauce that I have, and then tier 5 is typically GSA.
Okay.
And I did everything right. Tiers 1, 2, 3, 4. Set everything perfect, the way most 99% of people would do. It's right. It's relevant. Tier 5, I messed it up and said, and all my anchors were related to how to build an engine. Now, bear in mind, Digital Ear, my website is about SEO. But I sent all of this relevancy and power through GSA saying, nope, it's about building an engine, build an engine, build an engine, build an engine. And I took a page that was ranking with on-page only and some schema and probably 10 backlinks on page 1, position 4, all the way down to 19 within a week with that tier 5. It's about building an engine. It's about building an engine. So that's when I say, if people don't know, it's really hard. It's impossible to detect that. I mean, you'd have to reverse engineer your backlinks and then keep going down and seeing if someone's doing that to you, right? But I reversed it. As soon as I figured out the error of why my page was ranking, I just changed the campaign in tier 5 there, and I had to build to change. I had to essentially not replace, but outnumber those links, and then do it more, like 3 times more, and then eventually the ranking came back. Yep.
I'm enjoying this chat on. I guess we could call this, I guess, more of the dark arts of SEO. So we'll stay on this path as we maybe move towards the idea of PBNs. So I guess PBNs now have kind of been replaced with a new term like mini network. A mini network of sites, I guess, is essentially a PBN because you're just using them to help rank your main sites or whatever it is. But do you want to maybe dive into are PBNs still working today? And if so, how would you or would you even create your own network?
Yeah. So MiniNet was first,
Okay.
and there's a book. It was
So my
an
history was
ebook,
wrong.
Revenge of the MiniNet, or something like that. Yeah. And I think that guy was building them kind of like Google sniper sites. So you have a Kindle and you want to be an affiliate, you just make a one pager for Amazon Kindle. And that's kind of where those MiniNet things came about. And then they became PBNs. And now I know Brad and Mike; those guys are kind of bringing in the MiniNet concept back again, but they're PBNs. And all at the end of the day, all it is another website or a network of websites, set of websites that you own, and then that you under the terms PBN. What most people think of is that you're either just using those for backlinks or you're using them to sell backlinks, and that they have no useful purpose on the web. And I would argue that if you actually took a little time to make those websites useful, not only can you use them for backlinks, but they'd also rank and make their own money all on their own.
Mm.
So you have this set of websites that you own that you use to link to other people's websites and or your websites or however you want to leverage them. And how is that different than any other website on the internet?
Mm.
There's no like flag. There's no picture you put on there to say this is a PBN. There's no Google bot that runs around and reads everyone's registries and all that stuff and says, oh, this person owns 10 sites and they all link to this one thing. Let's cancel them all. There's no good. It just does not happen, right? So PBNs still work because links still work. And until Google eliminates links from the algorithm, which they won't because anyone that knows the history of the internet knows that all search engines before never used backlinks as votes. And Google brought PageRank, which uses backlinks as votes for a website. And then the anchor text is the relevancy. And so PBNs work and they will continue to work to this day. The new PBNs that are fancy right now in the internet marketing space. I don't even say black hat space, but internet marketing space are the news sites, those Google news sites and news networks that everyone's talking about and all that stuff. Yeah, that's probably the new evolution of building a PBN, and that's mainly because of the indexing improvements you can get from being in Google News.
Is that the only, I guess, factor that kind of makes those more desirable than just a normal website?
I mean, the original Google News was actually, it wasn't like impossible to get into, but it was hard. But once you were in it, you got a lot of traffic from it. And Google changed the authorizations process to get into it, and you could pretty ghetto website into Google News nowadays. There's no manual review or anything. It's going to let you in. I mean, Holly Starks, she claims over 1,000 domains in there, and I've seen some of those, and it's not special. But the original ones would actually index almost instantly. If you were on, say you do press releases and you do AP News, for example, those will pop into Google News and they'll rank real high. Global Newswire, pop into Google News and rank real high. That's the value out of those, the value add. But if you're using those for link building and you have a brand new one and it doesn't have any backlinks, you're not really going to see much. And I go back, you listen to Fight Club, so I'm sure you've heard it, you say it before, 0 plus 0 equals 0. And if your page that you have on there for your link has no power, then the link value for your website, it's not there. So that's kind of where the Google News thing comes in. With PBNs, you can control that. Yeah, and you can build internal links across your PBNs. You can build links to your PBNs and do some legit stuff and rank those pieces of content that you're putting on your PBNs for the purposes of link building your money sites, and essentially rank both of them at the same time.
Nice. But before I come back to the PBN talk, you mentioned something that was interesting about how Google uses the backlink as the vote, as the authority metric, and then the anchor text as the relevancy. So does that mean then the website itself doesn't give the relevancy through the link and it's only the anchor text, or do you still have to pay attention to, hey, it has to be in this similar niche or similar page?
It's a really good question because I'm of the belief that I can manipulate through the negative SEO example I gave earlier. Is kind of what led to the purpose of this, is that It is not the relevancy of the content or the website. It's the relevancy of the anchor text that is associated with the link that is being passed on.
Okay.
So if you want to rank for James's podcast, but all of your backlinks say click here, where is the relevancy? But I have them all on other podcast websites. I've shared links with my PBN or my friends network, and I get 100 links from other podcast sites that all say click here. There's still no relevancy, right? You're not saying this is James's podcast. It's not until you actually use anchor text where you'll start ranking for James's podcast or James's SEO podcast or SEO podcast because it's in that anchor text. What sucks is, like, I'll have no way to definitively prove it. I would have to say that it's a correlation versus a causation, because neither the argument of relevant websites or the argument for relevant anchor text has access to the real PageRank algorithm. So we can just look at it and go, I mean, is it true or is it not, right? So I figure either way, you're not losing out. If James's SEO podcast, let's just say James podcast was the brand, and you use that brand on other podcasting sites, you're probably going to rank for James's podcast, maybe SEO podcast if there's some, you're on some SEO posts or related or keywords right next to you, or that kind of thing. But you'll do it significantly faster if you had James's podcast about SEO as an anchor text, James's SEO podcast, those kind of variations, versus not.
Does that mean, or do you think then that generic anchor text with links then is essentially kind of useless and you shouldn't waste your money kind of doing that?
Correct. Yeah. I don't use generics anymore. Read more, go visit this website. I don't do any of that. I use primarily brand because I want to take over the brand, and the brand is associated. I use exact match on really good tier ones that are really good websites. And then I'll use a lot of related searches to kind of bring it around. And those related searches, say you have a page, James's podcast, that page has been in Search Console for a month. You go to Search Console, put that URL in, and you get this list of keywords that you ranked for. Those are all your anchor texts. Google's telling you what to use for your anchor text right there, right? And then if you're doing a really large scale thing, you can actually throw in your entities. I like to throw entities in there, and hyper relevant LSI when I don't want to mess with, and those are all in the tiers. So I'm sending the relevance up.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha. I guess the next question that comes to mind about that then is, say I was, I don't know, getting links from whoever, maybe even links from niche website builders. Obviously, people can buy links through niche website builders, so I'm going to plug that too. But say, for example, I have a site, James's podcast, but maybe a site's presented, it's a DR90, but it's in the pet niche or something. Just as an example, then if I got the right anchor text, do you think that would matter then, even though it's a pet niche going to a podcast site, but the anchor text was still James's podcast? Somehow fit in the article.
That would be a good way to pull that off, is on this pet site. If you're a pet owner and you're interested in creating a podcast, one of the good models is James's podcast, and that would be the backlink. It's about marketing, yes, but it's the idea is to listen to the format of the show. And now you have a natural backlink inside of there, and it's relevant to the topic of a podcast, and it's coming from a pet site, but at the end of the day, you're still going to get a good rankings benefit from it.
Okay. Yep. That clears things up too. I want to come back a little bit to the PBNs as well, or mini networks, or whatever you want to call them. If you're going to create a series of sites to almost link back to your own site or be their own separate kind of money sites or tier 2 sites, obviously, I think a lot of people are scared of starting multiple sites within their within the same niche under their same name, same domain registrar, same hosting, all that kind of stuff, because it kind of all
Yep.
links together. Do you think that is an issue, and do you think you need to kind of separate domains on different registrars or different names and different hosting and things to kind of try to keep them separate entities?
Nope. Everything that you listed off, I do. So, the only thing that I don't do is I don't leave them where the who is visible.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that when I started learning SEO, and he's from StomperNet, his name is Jerry West. And he and him and Dory Fran are probably the two most influential when it comes to PBNs in my sphere of influence that have taught me the most about how to handle the PBNs and working with those and building networks and stuff. And Jerry says kind of what I believe is that one person can own 100 websites, 1,000 websites, or whatever. And that's what he terms, and you have to beep this out if you want to, but it's real business shit, right? Mm-hmm. And so all you have to do is you can buy them under the same account. Just set the who is to be private. And for the most part, no one's going to know, right? Hosting, hosting makes it, if you have 100 sites and they're all linking to your page and someone looks it up and sees that all 100 are on the same IP, you're just making it easy for them. But you don't have to go out and buy 100 different hosting companies. There's plenty of tools out there. PBN.hosting is the one that I use, and they have all these cloud sites and the DigitalOceans and Google Cloud and all that, and it just auto assigns you to new regions and all that stuff. So you can put in 1,000 websites in that system, and they have different IP blocks and stuff. And then if you're really, really paranoid, before you send it over there, run it through Cloudflare. Now you have another set. So you're running off of different platforms, right? And you've kind of mixed that all up. But that's, at the end of the day, that's about as far as I go.
That's just more so other people don't find you, not so much because you're scared of Google coming down onto you.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about Google looking at that. Google is was it $68 billion last quarter. They do not care one lick about me or you or some, you know what I mean? It's we're not on Google's radar.
Gotcha.
It's the tattletales. It's those I call it narc SEO. And there's people out there that's their whole game. They couldn't rank a website for their life, but they can go through and look at all your stuff and then report to you. And that's typically how sites get found anymore. Yep.
Okay, so that's I guess for anyone doing that, try and hide their stuff as much as possible, but you can keep it under your own account.
Yeah. Don't just take off your tinfoil hat. You don't need to do all that craziness, but but don't put it all on your liquid web server and the same IP. That just stands out.
Nice.
But you can put them all on your liquid web server if you're running them all through Cloudflare.
That's true.
And get different name servers from Cloudflare. To get a different name server, all you got to do is sign up with a new email address for each PBN, and then you'll get new name servers, new IPs, everything. But they'll all be pointing at at your liquid web server.
Nice.
And you're good.
Perfect. I actually wanted to touch a little more on the dark arts as well, on online reputation management. So I had Charles Flows on here, I don't know how many months ago now, and he had some interesting stories on that too. So I don't know if I think you've done a little bit of it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I've done it. We had a couple pretty sneaky ways to take over that. In regards to online reputation, though, it's I can't stress enough to people, if you're going to run a business, you're going to be a branded person. If James is going to be, James's SEO podcast, that's going to be your brand. You need to be doing positive online reputation now and taking over for your brand, because Google just loves to show negative stuff in the search results. And the more high power stuff you have in there, the less likely that negative stuff's going to kick in. It's not impossible. As a matter of fact, like a LA Times article against you will take over for your brand pretty quickly if they want it. I don't know why Google's set that way, but it's just kind of how that works, right? But there, I used, I grew up. I say grew up, but I grew up in SEO in Black Hat World and those kind of forums, and doing adult stuff. And nobody knows SEO until you do adult stuff, because it's kind of the Wild West. But at the end of the day, that's where you're gonna really learn testing and trying out new things and innovation, and the white hat marketing engine has made it so that if you're doing that, you're labeled as a black hat SEO. And people associate black hat with hackers because of modern media, like the movie Black Hat. Those are all hackers, and you're breaking the law and blah blah blah. But for the most part, people who claim to be black hat, they're not breaking the law. What they're doing is testing the boundaries of what the algorithm says we can do in spite of the Google terms of service. You know what I mean? So you, like you said, you sell backlinks. You're a black hatter. You evil person. How dare you? You know what I mean? And it's, at the end of the day, white hat versus black hat. It's a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
Because I know some so-called white hat people that, if you actually thought about the services that they offer, it's total fraud. Total fraud. I know SEO agencies that are charging people $11,000 a month, and all they're doing is working off of the SEMrush site audit and taking their sweet time to do it, and then selling like 4 backlinks a month, and then maybe writing some articles for $11,000 a month. And they make us feel bad because you sold a backlink. How dare you, you dirty, rotten person. I know another group that are they're running around telling everyone to report spam maps, right? And they're getting all those maps shut down. And then they're going back behind to these businesses that are victims of that and saying, I'll watch your map for you. I'll pay me $75 a month and I'll watch your map and make sure it never gets suspended. But when it does, inevitably it does, because you tell them no and they go report your map and your map gets suspended. But when it does, they'll charge you, $500 to $1,000 to do the reconsideration request for you. And those people are white hat SEOs. So can you? I couldn't sleep at night if I was taking $75 just to watch and wait for an email to see if your map was suspended.
Exactly.
But that's a map monitoring service, and it's out there, and people were, legit selling that. But they're calling guys like you and me black hats. So think about that.
You mentioned about positive online reputation management. How do you get started doing something like that?
The best way is we all have some sort of network. Like you have guests that come on, you should probably be trying to get some testimonials from them, so you can put that on your social properties. You're gonna want to have a branded website for James's SEO podcast, and then rank your Twitter, your Facebook, your LinkedIn page. And a couple others, probably where all you're syndicating. So I'm assuming you use Riverside. I don't know if Riverside's URLs, do they index? So if they did, I would be ranking the Riverside. If not, I would be ranking the Apple iTunes podcast page, Spotify if you're on there, and I think there's a couple others. And just push those up and make sure that it's taken over, and never stop. Don't, like, I got page 1 and I'm done. No, go try to get page two too. Have enough in there so that if, one day you're just having a bad day and you flip out on a guest and it turns into a nightmare for you, you have enough buffer in there to keep that out of at least for your brand searches.
So how do you, for someone listening, how do you start to rank pages like your social properties, your Apple podcast page? Is it about putting enough in the description that it's about your website that Google recognizes that's your property?
Yeah, just think of it like citations. So if like for a local business, if you're going to have a citation on Yelp, for example, you're going to do the same thing with your Facebook and your YouTube and your Twitters and your Pinterest and your Instagrams. Is this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and this is where I'm at. And that where I'm at part is important because you're going to link to your website and you're going to link to all those other social accounts. And then you just send some backlinks to those, and it'll actually not only take over for your brand, it'll help rank the page at the same time. So if you remember the IFTT days, these IFTT rings, that semantic mastery.
It might be before I got into the space.
Yeah. So basically what it is you create a, let's say you have a Twitter and you have a website, and then IFTT, you connect those two together. Every time you post on your website, it'll send out a tweet on Twitter.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a set of properties that IFTT has access to. I think the app, that whole brand was like maybe 15, 20 of them all together. So I post on my website, and all 20 of those places would get notified.
Gotcha.
Well, if you built that out right, you actually interlinked everything. You can create, that's kind of like the bubble of me, right? So, and it's your syndication thing and your voice across all these platforms, and it's doing it automatically for you, so you don't have to be everywhere at once. And it's building backlinks to your money site. But if you build a nice big one, the new one is, what is it called? Social Fortress. That's a new key term. Yeah. If you build that out enough, you can protect your site pretty much from everything, and rank, depending on your market, rank with just those, right? So if you're starting out, your page or your target is relatively easy. And when I say easy, it's just not a whole lot of people trying to rank for it. Then go to knowem.com, have them make your social profiles for you. I think you end up with like 300 social profiles, and then just go back there, and they're going to link to your website for you, and they're going to put the descriptions and all that, and you just go back there and interlink everything, and then send a little bit of backlinks to all of those. You don't need a lot, like 20, 25 backlinks. Social bookmarks from a Fiverr gig will do it, because and you'll watch your site just go up just like that. And your investment after all that is done is probably about $500.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
So social bookmarks to your social media pages.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you're looking for, I use social bookmarks because they're easy and quick. You're just looking for at least 25 referring domains.
Gotcha.
And you listen to Fight Club, and Ted mentioned that number before is when he was doing e-commerce. And he had an automatic system, which every time a new product went up on his e-commerce store, it shot out to a PHP database that auto-generated 5 web pages on 25 referring domains. So every page had backlinks, which goes back to the negative SEO stuff. If your page doesn't have any backlinks, I can take you down. But if you have backlinks and you're stuck in there, it's a lot harder, right? So that's kind of where I use the 25. But you can, you don't even have to use those. You can Cora has outputs of pages. I think all of his tools combined come out with like 5 to 6 HTML reports. When I say HTML reports, they can actually be a web page in themselves, right? So, and you can put those on 5 or 6 domains. So there's 5 or 6 backlinks for every page you did, and you're running those tools anyway. So why not turn those pages into backlinks for you? So you can do the same with Pop. There's a bunch of tools out there that we all use that generate HTML reports that you can put on a set of 5 domains or 25 domains in my case. and create a PBN that looks like marketing data. Right.
Now we're getting deep into the weeds there.
Yeah. So it's all like, you've seen a Quora report, right?
Briefly just
Yeah.
from the podcast.
Yeah. So basically, the original Quora report looked like a spreadsheet from hell. And so Quora, the original software, has a tool in it called keyword parking. So you run your keyword, you get the spreadsheet from hell, and then you get this HTML document that has all the meta tags and the HTML1s, and all that stuff's all broken down. And there's a thing in there called keyword parking, and what it does is it takes some of the keywords that it found, some of the videos that it found, some of the images that it found, and then creates an HTML page for you. And you can use that to, let's see, keyword phishing is what they're using on YouTube. So they did all those lives, those YouTube lives, and then, oh, look, I ranked for all these keywords. That's what you're doing with that keyword parking tool. But you can use those for backlinks. So James has 50 domains. He runs the Quora reports, so there's 5 backlinks. Now he needs 15. He needs, another 45 more. You go to the keyword parking tool, and you knock out 45 more pages that tool made you. And it's a unique video, unique image, unique set of keywords, and some rules. And you just insert your backlink in there. So, instead of going to your favorite AI writing tool and getting one of those garbage things to spit out junk for you, or doing an article forge, or paying for keywords, it's already built free, and you can knock those out. And that's all marketing data. Correlite, that report, that's all marketing data. So when I do a Correlite run, I'll throw those on instead of just letting them collect dust on my computer. I'll give those to my VAs, and they'll put that report across my 25 domains, linking to that target site that Correlite page is written for. It's marketing data. What do I need to do to rank this page? And the tables there, and the search results, and the keywords, and all that stuff is all there. But it's all marketing data. So, and I'm paying for the tool anyway, so why not use it?
Fair enough. I just wanted to ask you about Parasite SEO as well. Is that something you use at all?
Yeah, there's in the affiliate space right now, the big parasites are those news sites that are selling sponsored pages. Yeah, those things. I think Google's kind of thinking about going after those. Lily Ray, I don't know if you follow her on Twitter. She does those Systrix reports where she goes and follows sites and sees, what's the changes. And she said that a lot of news sites got hit with that last September core update. So I would expect that Google might go after those because those are kind of in line with that product review stuff that they're really heavy with right now. But those, as long as they continue working, those are great parasites. Medium still works great. And at the end of the day, all that parasite stuff is you don't want to put it on your own blog. You put it on someone else's blog, and it's easier to rank because you did it over there. So, and there's been sets. I think Charles Float was really a big proponent of those. But every time that guy puts out a list, his users go in and eventually just fry those sites.
Just spam it to death.
Yeah. Yeah. So I tell everyone, if you find a new link building thing that's working great for you, like let's say I went to James and never heard of you before, and went and found your PBN service and I bought links from you, I can tell you that I'd be the last one to tell anyone that your link service was awesome if it ranked. I would tell nobody. As a matter of fact, I probably would go, "Oh no, those are shit," just so I can keep it for myself. You know what I
mean? Negative online reputation management there.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I used to brag about Diggities. I would pay for Diggities, and the downside of Diggities is you got at that time when he was selling them direct, you had to pay monthly.
Yeah.
And then they take them up. But I was ranking with them, so it was kind of worthwhile for me. And what I found out with Diggities was you pay for a monthly, you keep them up for a couple, 2-3 months, and then you stop. his staff wasn't going back and deleting those backlinks. So I was still ranking, I was getting the value of those links, and I just paid him kind of what I would thought is fair market value for backlinks, $150 with a backlink. So I think he caught on to me at some point, or else I mentioned that to someone that knows him. But yeah, that's how I was leveraging that.
Yeah, I was gonna say he probably knows now. Then once this comes out.
Yeah.
But before we finish this up, I want to touch on one more topic, and that is launch jacking. So it kind of ties into the Parasite SEO stuff too. But
Yep.
I wouldn't say I started in this area, but I did some initially because that's kind of what I stumbled across on YouTube, and jumping on things like Muncheye, so Muncheye.com that has all the updated ClickBank new listings and stuff.
Yep.
And I just did like a whole lot of YouTube videos going through the sales page. I ended up making a $1,200 commission, but then they refunded it eventually. But I was like, I did a $1,200 commission sale. Holy shit. And then the guy refunded it. But either way, what do you need to, I guess, do launch jacking successfully and actually make it a viable, I guess, affiliate play?
Two ways you can do it. You can go to Muncheye or JV Notify Pro and just do affiliate pages for everything under the sun. And then eventually, you might get some lucky ones in there. The other way is to find product developers and owners that actually do pre-promotion to their stuff. A really good format is I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called the Project Launch Formula.
No.
And then James Schramko does one too. It's really cool. But basically, when you're getting ready to launch a product, like a couple weeks before, you set up this launch system. So James is going to launch a new product about SEO. First day, when he emails out, that there's going to be a video about writing the perfect title tag. 3 or 4 days later, the next video is about writing the perfect meta description. 3 or 4 days later, doing your headings right. 3 or 4 days later, doing content. And then 3 or 4 days later, doing talking about link building. And your 6th video is your sales video. So you've given all this free content away in this whole process. You've generated buzz, and everyone's like, "Oh, look, he's giving out free stuff, and it's cool." And then people are getting something from you, and then you drop your $1,500 course on them. And the conversion rates on those are actually stupid high. Jeff Walker was the guy who made Product Launch Formula, but I think it was James Schramko that actually did it first. And that model is just dope. Like you can go in there and you're like, oh man, this guy knows his crap. He knows what he's doing, right? And when I first ran into James, I was just learning SEO stuff. So I was learning about the nuances of all those things that I just mentioned. That everyone knew we all knew we had to do it, but there was no thought put into it. And he showed us the thought that goes behind those things. And that was the learning funnel. So when he said the course, I mean, there was no brainer. There's no way I wasn't going to give him my credit card.
Yeah.
So you have to follow along. JV Notify Pro is probably better than Muncheye, in my opinion. The Muncheye guys typically is the ClickBank folks.
Yeah.
So you don't really, I mean, it's not bad, but the commission rates you're not going to get as much as if you go to a JV Notify Pro and watch those big guys that put out the $1,500, $30,000 courses. That's where the work and the effort's worth it. So you got that. And then I said 2, but there's actually 3. And 3 is you can go to ClickBank. You find the high converting offers. Typically those high converting offers will come with an initial sales page that you're sending your traffic to. Download that same sales page, rip out all their tracking and all that stuff, and change all the backlinks inside of there to your affiliate links, and then send it to the cart. And then rank that page with some stuff hidden in the background. And that's an easy way to leverage ClickBank.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a little over my head, being able to do that stuff.
It's pretty easy because, I mean, those guys, let's think about the ClickBank. You can go in there and, right, if you go into your ClickBank account and you're looking at an offer, you're going to get the metrics, especially if the offer's been in there a long time.
Yeah.
ClickBank's going to give it to you, like the number of traffic that the offer's
The
seen, the
gravity or
conversion
something
rate,
like that.
yeah, and all that stuff. And so, and then you just click on it and go check out what the sales page looks like. And you don't have to have it, but I have a Mac, but I have a tool called SiteSucker. You just put that URL in there and it just downloads all of the files and it puts it on my computer. And then you can re-upload that onto your own host if you want to.
Gotcha.
What I like to do if I'm doing that, let's say there's a video sales letter and then there's this god awful long form under there. I'll keep the video sales letter and then I'll minimize the size of that long form. And then I know I want to rank for, X product reviews, X product bonus, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Or let's say it's dog training. You're never going to rank for dog training with this method, but let's just say it is for argument's sake.
Yeah.
Then I would put all the relevant content inside of, I would hide it. I would put it in a div. I would put it in a carousel or a tab or whatever. So it's not seen on the sales letter, but it's there.
Gotcha.
And Google's going to read it. And I'll rank that at the same time.
So you're ranking for like that product review, but it's the actual sales page
Yeah,
that you're ranking on the product review. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. And you're already tested. You're using their tested copy to knock it out to get the conversion, but you're using your SEO knowledge to get the ranking. And that seems to work pretty good. If you want to take that on the flip side, let's say you do that and you get into the habit of that, and you have some pet ones, and you have some, I don't know, basket ones and some woodworking ones, and you have all these domains with all these products and stuff on that. Now you have a PBN, so you can go back inside of there and use all those pages that you built with other people's copy and ranked already and have backlinks for, and link to your SEO website or your brand new e-com store that you're selling this cool thing you invented, or your brand new podcast. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
There's plenty of double down. Don't just do work for the sake of doing work, which is what I see most SEOs doing these days. They just make pages for the sake of making pages. Think about the multiple purposes you can do that for. If you do client work, you do PRs for your client. If you're not linking to your agency in the PRs that you did for your client, then you're kind of a moron. They're paying for the PR. Why not just drop your link in there at the same time? Their client's going to understand, right?
Yeah.
So
it makes sense,
yeah. If I'm buying PBNs from you, hey, you can have 3 links per each page. 2 for the client, 1 for me. Sounds good. that's think like that. And affiliate, you're going to build a brand new affiliate site. Don't get caught up in the hype of you can sell your, build it up, get a whole bunch of traffic and sell it. That's true. You can do that. But Craig Campbell, ask him about it, how long that takes. In that meantime, you could have been using that affiliate site as PBN stuff, or as a nice filter for your PBNs that you're going to get ready. So when you do sell it, fine. But in the meantime, you get multiple uses out of that project that you're working really hard on.
Nice. And this has been an insightful podcast with a lot of the stuff, and I actually learned a lot from this too. So I'm hoping the listeners did the same. But I get that's a little over an hour now. So do you want to maybe give where people can follow, if people can follow you at all online with what you're doing?
Mainly, I do. I don't even want to lie. Digital Ear. I do all my talking in my groups. So SIA. That's at search SEOintel.com. And then I have, as you know, SEO Fight Club with Ted and Lee. I'm there. But for the most part, I've learned to start staying private. And I don't know where you are at the stage with social too, but I hate social media. $12,000 is the number that Facebook gives me a year, so I keep my Facebook account, and I have Twitter and I have LinkedIn, but I'm not really good at engaging over those platforms anymore. But yeah, if you have any questions or you just want to BS or whatever, you can reach out to me. You can find me on Skype. I'm easy, clint.a.butler. Otherwise, reach out from Digital Ear, hit the email.
Perfect. That's enough for people to find you then. And
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for coming on, Clint. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. It was fun.
Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. Until the next episode, goodbye.